5 days later, Ananias, the high priest, went to the city of Caesarea. He brought with him some of the older Jewish leaders and a lawyer named Tertullus. They went to Caesarea to make charges against Paul before the governor. Paul was called into the meeting, and Tertullus began to make his accusations. Tertullus said, "Most honorable Felix, our people enjoy much peace because of you, and many wrong things in our country are being made right through your wise help. For this, we all continue to be very thankful. But I don't want to take any more of your time, so I will say only a few words. Please be patient. This man is a troublemaker. He causes trouble with the Jews everywhere in the world. He is a leader of the Nazarene group. Also, he was trying to make the temple unclean, but we stopped him. You can decide if all this is true. Ask him some questions yourself." The other Jews agreed and said it was all true. The governor made a sign for Paul to speak. So Paul answered, "Governor Felix, I know that you have been a judge over this nation for a long time, so I am happy to defend myself before you. I went to worship in Jerusalem only 12 days ago. You can learn for yourself that this is true. These Jews who are accusing me did not find me arguing with anyone at the temple or making trouble with the people. And I was not making trouble or arguing in the synagogues or any other place in the city. These men cannot prove the things they are saying against me now. But I will tell you this, I worship the God of our fathers as a follower of the way, which these Jews say is not the right way. And I believe everything that is taught in the law of Moses and all that is written in the books of the prophets. I have the same hope in God that these Jews have, the hope that all people, good and bad, will be raised from death. This is why I always try to do what I believe is right before God and before everyone. I was away from Jerusalem for many years. I went back there to take money to help my people. I also had some gifts to offer at the temple. I was doing this when some Jews saw me there. I had finished the cleansing ceremony. I had not made any trouble, and no one was gathering around me. But some Jews from Asia were there. They should be here, standing before you. If I have really done anything wrong, they are the ones who should accuse me. They were there. Ask these men here if they found any wrong in me when I stood before the high council meeting in Jerusalem. I did say one thing when I stood before them and shouted, 'You are judging me today because I believe that people will rise from death.'" Felix already understood a lot about the way. He stopped the trial and said, "When Commander Lysias comes here, I will decide what to do with you." Felix told the army officer to keep Paul guarded, but to give him some freedom and to let his friends bring whatever he needed. After a few days, Felix came with his wife Drusilla, who was a Jew. Felix asked for Paul to be brought to him. He listened to Paul talk about believing in Christ Jesus. But Felix became afraid when Paul spoke about things like doing right, self-control, and the judgment that will come in the future. He said, "Go away now. When I have more time, I will call for you." But Felix had another reason for talking with Paul. He hoped Paul would pay him a bribe. So he sent for Paul often and talked with him. But after 2 years, Porcius Festus became governor. So Felix was no longer governor, but he left Paul in prison to please the Jews. Festus became governor, and 3 days later he went from Caesarea to Jerusalem. The leading priest and the important Jewish leaders made charges against Paul before Festus. They asked Festus to do them a favor. They wanted him to send Paul back to Jerusalem because they had a plan to kill Paul on the way. But Festus answered, "No, Paul will be kept in Caesarea. I will be going there soon myself, and your leaders can go with me. If this man has really done anything wrong, they can accuse him there." Festus stayed in Jerusalem another 8 or 10 days, and then went back to Caesarea. The next day, Festus told the soldiers to bring Paul before him. Festus was seated on the judgment seat. Paul came into the room, and the Jews who had come from Jerusalem stood around him. They made many serious charges against him, but they could not prove anything. Paul defended himself, saying, "I have done nothing wrong against the Jewish law, against the temple, or against Caesar." But Festus wanted to please the Jews, so he asked Paul, "Do you want to go to Jerusalem for me to judge you there on these charges?" Paul said, "I am standing at Caesar's judgment seat now. This is where I should be judged. I have done nothing wrong to the Jews, and you know it. If I have done something wrong, and the law says I must die, then I agree that I should die. I don't ask to be saved from death. But if these charges are not true, then no one can hand me over to these people. No, I want Caesar to hear my case." Festus talked about this with his advisors. Then he said, "You have asked to see Caesar, so you will go to Caesar." A few days later, King Agrippa and Bernice came to Caesarea to visit Festus. They stayed there many days, and Festus told the king about Paul's case. Festus said, "There is a man that Felix left in prison. When I went to Jerusalem, the leading priest and the older Jewish leaders there made charges against him. They wanted me to order his death. But I told them, when a man is accused of doing something wrong, Romans don't hand him over for others to judge. First, he must face the people accusing him, and then he must be allowed to defend himself against their charges." So when these Jews came here for the trial, I did not waste time. The next day, I sat on the judgment seat and ordered Paul to be brought in. The Jews stood up and accused him, but they did not accuse him of the kind of crimes I thought they would. Their charges were all about their own religion and about a man named Jesus. Jesus died, but Paul said that he is still alive. I did not have any idea about how to judge these matters, so I asked Paul, "Do you want to go to Jerusalem and be judged there?" But Paul asked to be kept in Caesarea. He wants a decision from the emperor, so I ordered that he be held until I could send him to Caesar in Rome. Agrippa said to Festus, "I would like to hear this man too." Festus said, "Tomorrow you can hear him." The next day, Agrippa and Bernice came to the meeting with great show, acting like very important people. They entered the room with military leaders and important men of the city. Festus ordered the soldiers to bring Paul in. Festus said, "King Agrippa, and all of you gathered here with us, you see this man. All the Jewish people, here and in Jerusalem, have complained to me about him. When they complain about him, they shout that he should be killed. When I judged him, I did not find him guilty of any crime worthy of death, but he asked to be judged by Caesar, so I decided to send him to Rome. However, I don't really know what to tell Caesar that this man has done wrong. So I have brought him before all of you, especially you, King Agrippa. I hope that you can question him and give me something to write to Caesar. I think it is foolish to send a prisoner to Caesar without making some charges against him." Agrippa said to Paul, "You may now speak to defend yourself." Paul raised his hand to get their attention and began to speak. He said, "King Agrippa, I feel fortunate that I can stand here before you today and answer all the charges these Jews have made against me. I am very happy to talk to you, because you know so much about all the Jewish customs and the things the Jews argue about. Please listen to me patiently. All the Jews know about my whole life. They know the way I lived from the beginning in my own country and later in Jerusalem. These Jews have known me for a long time. If they want to, they can tell you that I was a good Pharisee, and the Pharisees obey the laws of the Jewish religion more carefully than any other group. Now I am on trial, because I hope for the promise that God made to our fathers. This is the promise that all the 12 tribes of our people hope to receive. For this hope, the Jews serve God day and night. My king, the Jews have accused me because I hope for the same promise. Why do you people think it is impossible for God to raise people from death? I used to think that I should do everything I could against Jesus from Nazareth. And that's what I did, beginning in Jerusalem. The leading priest gave me the authority to put many of God's people in jail. And when they were being killed, I agreed that it was a good thing. I visited all the synagogues and punished them, trying to make them curse Jesus. My anger against these people was so strong that I went to other cities to find them and punish them. One time, the leading priest gave me permission and the authority to go to the city of Damascus. On the way there, at noon, I saw a light from heaven, brighter than the sun. It shined all around me and those traveling with me. We all fell to the ground. Then I heard a voice talking to me in Aramaic. The voice said, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? You are only hurting yourself by fighting me." I said, "Who are you, Lord?" The Lord said, "I am Jesus. I am the one you are persecuting. Stand up. I have chosen you to be my servant. You will tell people about me, what you have seen today and what I will show you. This is why I have come to you. I will keep you safe from your own people and from the non-Jewish people, the ones I am sending you to. You will make them able to understand the truth. They will turn away from darkness to the light. They will turn away from the power of Satan, and they will turn to God. Then their sins can be forgiven, and they can be given a place among God's people, those who have been made holy by believing in me." Paul continues speaking. "King Agrippa, after I had this vision from heaven, I obeyed it. I began telling people to change their hearts and lives and turn back to God. And I told them to do what would show that they had really changed. I went first to the people in Damascus. Then I went to Jerusalem and to every part of Judea and told the people there. I also went to the non-Jewish people. This is why the Jews grabbed me and were trying to kill me at the temple. But God helped me, and He is still helping me today. With God's help, I am standing here today and telling all people what I have seen. But I am saying nothing new. I am saying only what Moses and the prophets said would happen. They said the Messiah would die and be the first to rise from death. They said that He would bring the light of God's saving truth to the Jewish people and to the non-Jewish people." While Paul was still defending himself, Festus shouted, "Paul, you are out of your mind! Too much study has made you crazy." Paul said, "Most honorable Festus, I am not crazy. What I'm saying is true. It all makes perfect sense. King Agrippa knows about all this, and I can speak freely to him. I know that he has heard about these things, because they happened where everyone could see them. King Agrippa, do you believe what the prophets wrote? I know you believe." King Agrippa said to Paul, "Do you think you could persuade me to become a Christ follower so easily?" Paul said, "It is not important if it is easy or if it is hard. I pray to God that not only you, but that everyone listening to me today could be saved and be just like me, except for these chains I have." King Agrippa, Governor Festus, Bernice, and all the people sitting with him stood up and left the room. They were talking to each other. They said, "This man has done nothing worthy of being put to death or even put in jail." And Agrippa said to Festus, "We could let him go free, but he has asked to see Caesar."